Do you remember in elementary school when your teacher would have you write a letter to your future self at the beginning of the school year? In 5th grade, I wrote at the end of my letter, "Emilia, I hope you find out who you are." Now, 5th grade Emilia is so different from 14th grade Emilia, but aspects of her and her experience will forever remain in me. She was marked by excessive anxiety that made her miss school often. She became the joke of the class for never being there. She was made fun of by the girls in her grade for talking too loud, singing too often, having a different body size. She had no friends and only found comfort in being at home. She was even attacked for her mixed heritage, as if her classmates' limited understanding of culture and heritage could make her any less Latina. But she carried with her a joy for education, always seeking to learn more. She has and still has an immense love for singing, spending time with her parents, and her favorite, admiring her older brother, who was her role model in so many ways. But all she wanted was to be friends with the girls and her classmates. She wanted to make her teachers proud, despite constantly being berated. She wanted to walk into school without the feeling like she wasn't meant to be there. She just wanted to fit in. And if I could tell 5th grade Emilia anything, I would tell her this: fitting in and belonging are not the same. Fitting in means giving up parts of yourself by conforming to others around you. But belonging doesn't require permission. It means embracing your uniqueness and authenticity and trusting that the relationship you create or the space you enter is derived from your individuality. Whereas fitting in is a transactional self-betrayal of who you are created to be. You shrink and minimize yourself down to only a fraction of who you are every time you try to fit in. And I've discovered fitting in is a recipe for failure. But figuring out who you are is tricky, I agree. I am Greek, Italian, Salvadorian, born in another country and grew up in Las Vegas. And here I am all the way in West Michigan, in a city I never even knew existed until 2 years ago. And when I entered college, I knew that I was entering a world where not many people would share similar experiences to me. It wasn't on the forefront of my mind, however, until I entered my freshman year orientation class. As I looked around, I realized that some of my peers were learning about realities that others faced for the first time. Certain realities that I have experienced firsthand. From food and housing insecurity to the struggles of immigration. Being in this class was the first time as a young adult I realized I was different, that I didn't fit in. And after a conversation with my older brother, he diagnosed me with what he calls NFI syndrome, or not fitting in syndrome. It was the first time I had felt this, but the first time I heard it, but not the first time I had felt it. And it isn't limited to just somebody from a different race or ethnicity. I believe we have all shared this feeling of NFI syndrome before. Maybe you entered a room and there were people with different religions, thought processes, and experiences as you, and you couldn't relate. Or you were in a group and you had a different outlook, approach, or view on something, and it wasn't reciprocated. Those are moments of NFI syndrome. And it plagues millions of people all over the world who share the same feeling of not perfectly fitting into the mold or meeting the expectations of society and those around them. And being at Hope, the second time I experienced this was when I decided to rush a sorority. It was daunting, and thoughts were being created in my mind telling me that I wasn't going to get in because I was Latina. Basically, because I was different than the majority of the women around me. Well, after being accepted into the sorority and being met with nothing but love, grace, and kindness from my sisters, I knew that it was my NFI syndrome telling me I didn't belong. But after finally fitting in somewhere, I started being rejected by people of my own culture. This time, I was told that real Latinas didn't join sororities, that those spaces aren't meant for us. Was I really being told that I wasn't a real Latina? These unspoken societal expectations of what a Latina should look, think, and be like have never been regulations that I could adhere to, no matter how hard I tried. And the cognitive dissonance that I was experiencing felt so personal to me. It was as if the identity that I had worked so hard to create was being attacked and rejected. I didn't fit in with the Latinos telling me this, and it brought me back to my high school years. I grew up distant from much of my Latino family, so most of my exposure to my culture was at home. But my mom ensured to raise me in our heritage, from the food to the dance and the history. I knew that I was Latina. And when I was 15, I transferred to a high school that was 95% Hispanic. I was excited. For the first time, I would be surrounded by so many people who shared a similar heritage to me. I thought I would fit in. And I believed that it was my time to create connections with so many people who I thought would be like me, since I felt so rejected in elementary and middle school. Unfortunately, I was labeled the white girl or the no sabo. No sabo is a term that refers to somebody with Hispanic or Latino roots that does not speak Spanish well. It's a play on the idea of somebody attempting to speak Spanish and messing up, mistakenly saying no sabo instead of no sé, which ironically is how you say I don't know. This outs somebody for being less knowledgeable, having less culture, or maybe somebody even who rejects their culture. What was meant to be a time of further reunion and connection with my heritage became a time of alienation from people I thought I would be able to relate to. In high school, I was too white. In college, I became too Latina. I didn't fit in anywhere according to the standards of those around me, and I felt impotent. It was my differences that made me feel insecure, from how I looked, how I spoke, where I grew up. After a conversation with my mom and being reminded of who I am by my father, I realized that seeking the approval of others was getting me nowhere. Trying to fit in was getting me nowhere. I was living in a constant state of trying to prove my identity to others, and I was failing. But the moment I realized that I didn't need to seek the acceptance of others and be approved by somebody else, I understood that I belonged. Because the parts of myself that are different than anybody else are the parts of my identity that have never needed justification from any peer, teacher, or social rule. I belonged the moment I realized I am enough just as I am. And the moment you realize that you also belong, your self-esteem won't crumble at the utterance of somebody saying you are not worthy. Figuring out your identity can be tricky, I agree. But here is the biggest piece of advice that I have. Do not listen to the negativity. Those are not the characteristics that define you, whether it comes from your mind or something somebody else has spewed. Here is what I mean. I implore you all to look back at a time in your life where somebody has misunderstood you, mistook what you said, or has even rejected you. Maybe your admiration was seen as jealousy. Your patience was seen as apathy. Your immense joy for the world could have been seen as aloofness. Think back to a time where somebody saw you and spun a different version to fit their narrowed view of how they think you should be. Those are the real characteristics that define you, hidden under the guise of an insult. Rip those negative pages out of your life story. They do not define you. I don't assign the annoying girl to my identity because it's not true to who I am. And I won't let the negative words of somebody else remain and live inside me. And NFI syndrome was just something my mind created, and it became a part of the journey to understand and hone my identity. But I will never let it affect me ever again. And I certainly don't call myself a no sabo. That was just somebody's attempt to offend me because I didn't fit in to how they think I should be. What I really am is a proud Latina. I am a Latina whether I fit the mold or not, whether my Spanish is perfect or not. And here I am as a first-generation student learning to speak Spanish at the best college I could have ever dreamed of attending. I don't live to be approved by anybody else. When you know you belong, it'll come from within. It is an inner renaissance rather than an external validation. You will be able to enter spaces where before you could have felt discouraged to live freely and authentically. Whether I look like everybody in the room or no one, I will walk in with confidence because I know that I am meant to be there, because I am a unique individual just like all of you. And now I can enter rooms with Latinos despite my imperfect Spanish, knowing I'm still meant to be there. Because somebody else's perception of me cannot change any part of me. In 5th grade, I wrote to myself, Emilia, I hope you find out who you are. If I could go back in time, I would show that little girl who she has become. Despite constantly being rejected for every part of her unique self, she has grown into a woman much stronger and more resilient than she could have ever imagined. Emilia, I know who I am. My identity is contingent upon myself, my faith, my experiences, and my culture. It's a part of myself that still loves to sing and dance like nobody's watching, to talk as loud as I want and watch my favorite shows, even if others don't like it. It is for nobody else to touch or manipulate. And just like the signature in my letter, I leave my talk with this. Amidst the busyness of your life, how you grew up, who you surround yourselves with, or who you are claiming to be, you are meant to be here. Your true identity is waiting to come out and shine. And you are freed from the shackles that have been placed upon you. So learn who you are without the outside voices that have been ringing in your ears your whole life. I hope you find out who you are. Thank you.